What is up, survivors? We're back with another taming video. In today's taming video, we're going to be talking about the Argentavis, probably one of the most useful creatures that you're going to find in the Ark. These guys are incredibly useful. They're awesome flyers, and we'll get into all their cool abilities, and then I'll also talk about how to tame them. For starters, you guys are typically found up in mountainy areas, not usually down in near the not usually down near like water and things like that. Typically, you're going to find them up in mountainy areas flying around. These guys are hostile, but only to a degree. If you tick them off, they're going to come after you, but if they'll typically go after like corpses. So if you kill a dino, it'll usually try to come after it. You can kind of use that as a lure if you're trying to tame these guys, but typically I just make traps for them. They're a jack of all trades flyer. They're not the fastest, but they do have a significant amount of health, and they do a pretty hefty amount of damage for what they are. But really, it comes down to the ability to do all of these different roles that the Argentavis can do. Like I said, it definitely is more of a jack of all trades. Its stats aren't fantastic, but this is also only a level 12, so you have a decent amount of health, pretty decent carry weight, and they're very good on stamina. You can cross a lot of ground with stamina, even with a low-level RG. Even if you're doing like a stamina management, like not necessarily sprinting everywhere. The saddle is unlocked at level 62 and does require chitin or keratin fiber and hide to make. This is definitely more of a mid-game, even of almost late. Level 62 is definitely more of a mid-game saddle that you're going to get for these guys, but they're incredibly worth it. Once the saddle's on them, they can actually work like a mobile smithy. So much like the beaver does, once you put a saddle on them, they work like a smithy. So you have a mobile smithy, you have a flyer that's pretty decent health, can put out a decent amount of damage, really good on stamina, can carry a decent amount. It's kind of all around great. It gets even better. They can carry things in their talons with so you have your primary attack, which is just your normal attack. You have your secondary attack, which grabs things in its claws, which does have like a cooldown, which is usually about, I think it's like 10 to 15 seconds you have to wait before you can pull it off again. But there's a long list of creatures to include players that those talons can pick up, making this RG's really good on a PvE standpoint, and then also from a PvP standpoint, being able to just snatch riders off their mounts. RG's are pretty good. The other thing is they can actually do with their third attack is they can actually pick up small animals in their mouth. Let me see if I can go find something real quick to show you. Come here, Dodo. There you go. I got a dodo in my mouth. Got a dodo in my mouth, and then come here, mouse chops. And then I'm carrying a mouse chops. So what this guy could do is actually carry quite a amount of stuff. You can carry small animals in the beak, large, small to medium, and even some of the like mid-range dinos in your claws. You can carry quite a bit with these guys. Makes it incredibly useful for transporting your own dinos or picking other dinos up in a PvP setting, or picking dinos up to drop them in a taming pen from a PvE setting. Being able to just pick these creatures up and just plop them into a taming pen makes it an incredibly much more laid back version of taming. You just make a big old box somewhere, pick the animals up, drop them in there, tame them, and you're done. We're not done there with the Argentavis. The Argentavis does even more stuff. So the other thing, before we get into some of the more of the utility stuff, when you're using this as a flyer, Argentavis can actually be used as a really good Quetzal tamer. What you basically do is whistle follow with this guy and then shoot a grapple hook to him. And while the Argentavis is flying, you're grappled to it. Now, while you're not riding on an animal, while you're not riding on one of your own tames, it doesn't run out of stamina. So the RG can sit there and fly forever and chase down something like a Quetzal for you in midair. So we got all that. We got a tanky flyer that can carry a whole lot of stuff, that works as a smithy. What else can it do? Well, there's actually more. The Argentavis actually gets weight reductions on a lot of the higher end resources, and it's a 50% weight reduction on black pearls, crystal, raw metal, metal bars, obsidian, organic polymer, and stone. Making this guy even better for harvesting stuff. Flying up to the mountains and harvesting those rare resources and bringing it back on an Argentavis means the Argentavis is going to be able to take even more than you normally would. There's nothing really bad to say about the Argentavis. They do also lay eggs, and you can breed them as normal. These are so versatile. Bro, versatile. If I had to pick one flyer and I could only have one flyer, the Argentavis would probably be the smartest bet. Because it can do so much so easily, it makes even a low-level Argentavis worth it for you until you can get a higher level one. Chalk that up with being able to breed these guys. Being able to breed these guys and get imprint bonuses and pass those stats down the line, Argentavis can be a pretty vicious animal. Let's talk about how to tame them. Alrighty, so the taming of an Argentavis can be a little convoluted if you're trying to do this on foot, but again, I always try to like to do all these taming videos on foot without any other creatures involved. You've probably seen this trap before if you've watched any of our other taming videos. Basically, this is a long row of dino gates, which basically makes us a tunnel. We get the Argentavis angry to chase us. Its pathing is a little, it doesn't have the best turning radius and it's not very fast, but basically we want to get it to chase us into here. Once it's inside of here, we can close the door or even run in and out of these dino gates to keep it focused on us. Once I get this door closed, we'll wrap around, close the other door. It'll be trapped in here. We trank it, and that's how we tame it. Pretty cut and dry. And so let's go over here and get an Argy. All right, well, we've successfully got an Argentavis good and ticked off at me. The nice thing about these is with a decent amount of movement speed, you can outrun these guys pretty well on foot. Make sure you line these up perfectly when you're trying to close them in these gates. There we go. We got you in here. And we got you in here. All right. Pretty quick and simple, right? You just got to make sure you got them good and lined up when you're coming in the gate, because if you don't, they'll try to hit the edges and they'll just fly around the outside. It can be incredibly frustrating. So make sure you got a good line up here before any of that happens. And after that, we can trank them like normal. Usually they'll just sit here and try to hit the walls and stuff like that, but every now and then they'll come after me. No, you don't. And just knock them out like normal. You can use trank arrows. They have a pretty good health, so you can use trank arrows or trank darts, whichever you prefer. Obviously, darts are going to be a little bit more effective, but that'll be it. And there we are. Knocked out Argentavis. These guys are meat eaters. They'll eat any sort of meat. Obviously, mutton's probably their preferred meat of choice, but if you're looking for the kibble, it is the superior kibble to tame these guys. Torpor doesn't drop too bad on them. As you can see, it doesn't drop too fast. You're going to want some narcotics because the food isn't really fast, but something like kibble or mutton or prime meat, and this will be a fairly quick tame for you. Pretty cut and dry with most knockout tames, especially if you're on foot. Obviously, if you're on a mount, this is a different story, but I always like to try to do these on foot with no other assistance. And we have it. Knocked out Argy. In summary, if you're one of those people playing Ark that really looks for these one-stop shop creatures that do a little bit of everything, something like the Therizinosaur, the Argentavis is right up your alley for a lot of different roles. It fits into so many different roles. It's not necessarily the best at any of those roles, but being able to do all of these things basically makes this thing a flying Swiss Army knife, to put it lightly. But that's pretty much it. That's the Argentavis. Hope you guys liked the video. Hit that like button, hit that sub button, and I will see you guys on the next one.